this Gruden thing will not work. He's too famous. It's too toxic in that locker room.
Hey, you paralyzed me at first. Reading this and listening to you say it, I was like, oof. This is going to be a difficult one to even counter. But then I started doing some digging and went back to my childhood years when there was a really good-looking coach, at least that's what the ladies say, who had tremendous success at his previous job, became the coach of one Dallas Cowboys by the name of Jimmy Johnson. Good-looking, killing it at his previous job, and got to Dallas and went 1-15. You remember that? I bet you forgot.
I do remember that.
Yeah, I remember too now.
So who's Herschel Walker? But go ahead.
Oh, Herschel Walker was gone. Khalil Mack gone.
They didn't get nothing for Khalil. Jimmy Johnson got a lot for Herschel Walker.
I get you, and it's probably not a perfect parallel, but let's keep going. So now we're seeing Jon Gruden on a one-win team. Probably going to end up 1-15, the way that these guys out there feeling. And under 500 ball for Jimmy Johnson in his first few years. Who knows what Jon Gruden is expecting until they get to Vegas. But boom, all of a sudden, it popped. And it popped big for Jimmy Johnson. We all know that the issues with him and ownership got in the way of that continuing to develop. But we've seen precedent before where someone comes in with the elements you're describing that you say is impossible to survive and win and thrive. And Jimmy Johnson did it. Now, Jon Gruden has a different task because what he's looking at is trying to cleanse the roster, at the same time keep the spirit alive, and then try to restore that. That's a difficult task in a different era, but we have seen it done once before.
Cleanse a roster. What did you cleanse them on? You get rid of a Khalil Mack. He was a great team guy. What are you cleansing a roster for? Jon Gruden, like McVay, he's a nice-looking dude. He can be the star if he wants to. He takes a back seat because he wants his players to be in the forefront. Gruden wants to be in the front of the line. Say, hey, look at me. I'm the star of the team. It's all about me. McVay can do that if he chooses to. Sure. He's better looking than Gruden, and right now his team is hotter than Gruden. And if he wants to be the star, he can. He takes a back seat and he lets his players get there. What you said is 100% correct. Jon Gruden wants to be the star. He wants to make all the money. Me personally, I don't see the Raiders turning this around at all. He has 10 years. You would hope in 10 years they could turn it around. Right. But will they give him 10 years? Like, I'd give him 3 years. If he doesn't have it trending in the right direction in 3 years, he got to go.
Initially, I read this, and I'm like, man, it's not all about being a star. That's not it. And then the more you kept reading, I'm like, okay, man, that makes sense. That makes sense. And then I started trying to think of other coaches that were out front, that were bigger than their team. And I could not find any on this level, as you specifically eloquently put. In the NFL. Now, college football, different scenario. Professional sports, the players mean more than the coach because the coach is expendable. You can't get rid of 53 guys at one time. You probably could. It wouldn't work out right. So when I look at this, I'm like, maybe that is it. Maybe that is his problem. He wants to be the guy. He wants all the attention. But I wouldn't understand. I don't understand why he would get rid of somebody on the other side of the ball that you don't even deal with. Khalil Mack. It just doesn't all add up to me.
I think the Khalil Mack decision should be removed because that was a decision, I think, out of his hand. But what is in his hand is accepting a 10-year contract that you have to be smart enough to know, because here's the difference between college and the pros. Everybody in that pro locker room, coaches and players alike, are all competing to get paid. And Jon Gruden's got the best deal on that team.
He'll always
and that's
be
crazy
one of the highest
to the
paid.
players.
He'll, regard 4 or 5 years, it will only be 1 or 2 guys on that team that make more money than Jon Gruden.
And have that kind of security. Jimmy Johnson had no security when he started with the Cowboys, and damn sure didn't have a 10-year contract.
Well, I'm going to say this. When it comes to the money aspect of it, I understand what you're saying, but if they offered me $10 million or 10 years for $100 million, and I haven't coached a down in my life, I'm going to take that job too.
But you're also, again, Jon Gruden is sitting on a lot of change, and not all money's good money. He was making $6 million a year broadcasting games for ESPN. He made a bunch of money as a coach. Again, at the end of the day, what's most important to Jon Gruden is being successful. And that contract, I think, stands in the way of him being successful.
Dun, 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 dun. Here's a story. Because y'all trying to beat up my Jimmy Johnson, I got another one. There was this very handsome guy out here in Los Angeles coaching to the tune of a dynastic college football program. Ran into a couple of issues here and there and said, let me dip on these boys. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's college football.
Hey, when he went to the pros, losing season. And then the Legion of Boom came out of nowhere.
Losing season, but they went to the playoffs.
7-9, but
They went to the playoffs.
Okay, well, we have a deflated league, or at least division at that time. And he was the biggest star on that team. There was no, Richard Sherman got drafted to the Seahawks. Nobody said that. Everyone was looking at this thing. Russell Wilson got drafted. Nobody said that. What we saw was Pete Carroll out front, and what happened? They almost became dynastic.
Let's be real, though,
That's
Marcellus.
two? I got two?
No. Let's be real, though. Jon Gruden is 1,000% unique. There has never been a football coach in college or the pros with a profile and celebrity as big as Jon Gruden. He sat on Monday Night Football for years, and Chucky this and Chucky that, and the Jon Gruden quarterback camp. You've never seen, he's a celebrity coach. Pete Carroll was not a celebrity coach when he took over. He was a guy that bombed in the NFL originally, had some sex at USC for a time, and then came to the NFL. Not nearly with Jon Gruden's profile.
Not the same.
We've never seen this kind of celebrity.
This is the reverse John Madden. John Madden went to the Raiders, and then he was like, okay, I step away and I become grander. I become greater. This is the flip of that model, and you're right. No one else has flipped that model and done it before. That doesn't mean he can't be successful, because we haven't seen anyone do it before.
My argument would be the same. If John Madden had left the broadcasting booth to go back to coaching and commanded some huge contract with all that celebrity he had, it wouldn't work.
Well, Dick Vermeil wants to sit there and say, hey, man, I was in the booth.
Didn't have that level of celebrity.
Think about it.
He won the Super Bowl.
Mark Davis is the only owner that will put up with this. Mark Davis is the only owner that will give Jon Gruden the contract he gave him, because he came under Al Davis. He really, and no disrespect, he really don't know what he's doing, Mark Davis. So Jon Gruden finagled. He basically finessed him into giving me this 10-year contract, giving me total control, let me do what I want. There's not another owner in the NFL would have given him this type of control and power. Not one.
Well, you got to understand the business of football. Look, star power can cover up for other issues and voids. And that's
on the field, it can.
If you win.
But on the field, if it's a player.
It will buy you time. It will get tickets sold. It will get butts in the seats until you can fix what's on that
field. You know what's funny, though? The Raiders, they got the best fan. It don't matter if win, lose, or draw. Right. They're going to be there. I got a buddy that love the Raiders, and we picking on him from last night.
Guys.
Love him.
Guys, honest to goodness. Did y'all watch that game? That team did not try. What I'm saying, he can't lead because his celebrity and contract are in the way. I think it's poison in that lot. You making all the money. You got all the security. You the star of this team.
Watching that game was a little disturbing for me, because it looked like he was almost in it by himself. If you look on the sideline, he's standing there. Even when Derek Carr came up to him and they're engaging, it was kind of like, yeah. Almost like,
We've all been in the locker room. I never forget hearing the defensive coordinator say, Nick, that was his first NFL start. Coordinators will I hear defensive coordinators all the time say, this is his first NFL start. We going to make it rough. He only gets one time to make his first NFL start, and it's not going to be a memorable one on us. And I guarantee Paulie Gunther went in there with, dude, they let Nick Mullins, he looked like he wanted a better quarterback. Like, is Kyle Shanahan that great of a coach to where he can look that good in his first NFL start?
There was the 52-yard touchdown run. If you watch that play, the guy running right.
It looked like they didn't even try.
They did not try.
I'm with you on that one. It did not look like they even tried. I mean, he didn't even look like he was running full speed. It just looked like he hit the corner and just,
I'm going to tell you what it looked like. I'm going to explain it to you. Marcellus, and this is just fact. That defense looked like a group of guys that said, they gave Jon Gruden Khalil Mack's money. We paying a coach instead of Khalil Mack. As an organization, his contract's in the way. If I'm on that defensive side of the ball, I'm like, they gonna invest in Jon Gruden and not us, and we're all being swept out of here. And I think if you bring a whole new batch of guys in there, it's going to be the same thing.
Stop it, y'all. You're making a great argument, but it's an argument that is out of convenience because it's not truly the reason why they're not performing. It's digestible. It's easy to say, yeah, that makes sense.
Why aren't they performing?
But the real reason, look, in the locker room, you said jealousy.
Yeah.
Jealousy is used in the locker room to motivate. When I got into the locker room and I saw my first game check, and it was $30,000, and I was like, damn, that's more than my mama made in an entire year. I get it in 1 week. But then I saw Bruce Smith's, and it was like $700,000-800,000. I said, Lord, I didn't hate on Bruce Smith. I said, I got to go get this. And guess what? If I see my coach making that money, guess what I'm thinking? I got to go get this.
No, you're not.
How?
You're thinking he don't deserve this. You can compete with Bruce Smith and the other guys in your locker room. That's a decision they making on Jon Gruden. $10 million. You can't compete with that.
$10 million's not a
10 years?
10
years?
You got me there.
Yeah.
Hello, basketball money. You got me there.
Basketball players ain't getting 10 years.
Man, that's a lot on it.
That's
guaranteed.
And it's guaranteed.
And
I still
you
want
make
to go
a
get
good
it.
point. Like, you can compete, and that does. Teammates, when you come into the game and you come into an organization in the locker room, you do. TJ making I'm striving for that. But I'm not competing with my coach. You don't look at that as
Did you ever
competition.
look at Mike McCarthy's dough? Did you ever look at your coach's money? I never even cared.
Because you don't even know what Bill Belichick makes, and that's what I'm saying is the difference. When you think of Jon Gruden, the first thing that pops in your mind is this dude's getting $100 million. And if we was in that locker room, we'd be like, the dude doing this X's and O's, he ain't much better than what we had before.
That know they doing a better job than Gruden think.
I hear you there. Hey, don't disrespect me like that again.
What?
Bill Belichick make 10.2.
He does?
Hell yeah, he eating.
But he earned it.
He did earn it, but I still know.
It's not the first thing I think about, though. I think about the 5 Super Bowls. I think about Deflategate. I think about a whole bunch of other stuff. When I think Jon Gruden, I think 10 years, $100 million. And I'm like, and if I'm in that Raiders locker room, I'm like, he ain't blocked nobody. He ain't tackled nobody. He ain't sore on Mondays. He's a guy that...
What Kyle Shanahan making?
No clue.
And he proved the point last night.
No clue.